Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. So, I was home briefly, got on the road last Friday with my trainee, and we just been running. Sorry about the glare. It's really weird. I'm here at the global front range headquarters of Prime Inc. Here in Denver, Colorado, and again, I apologize. I'm trying to see what's going to work here. Anyway, maybe that'll work. Okay, so yeah, we've been on the road. We took a load from, picked up a load in, before I mention where we picked up. So I actually took a load to, I think it was Save-A-Lot in Williamsport, Maryland, which is right on the Potomac River. It's right off, it's I-81, exit 1 in Maryland. And I gotta tell you, I'll admit, I thought going there was gonna be like a debacle. And it was the easiest grocery distributor place I think I've ever been. Because I think they had lumpers, but for whatever reason they didn't charge me, and I was out of there in less than 2 hours, and I had basically a trailer loaded to the rafters and all the way back to the doors, and that was really cool because then I just like PC'd home. And my trainee came to my house on Friday, parked in my driveway. We got on the road. We went down over to the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And if you've ever been to the Eastern Shore of Maryland, you know there's two things over there. Well, three things. Beaches, crabs, and chicken. That's actually where, Salisbury, Maryland is where like Frank Perdue made his fortune and stuff. But we picked up in Hurlock, Maryland, and took that load out to Minnesota. So that was a team load, ran that out to Minnesota. We booked it down to in Nebraska. Can't remember, south of Norfolk, Nebraska, but I can't remember the name of the town. But by the way, Johnny Carson grew up in Norfolk, but he was born in Iowa. Anyway, we took that load down to Houston. It was a Tyson to Tyson load, so that was pretty easy. And then we picked up in, well, so here's how getting lucky sometimes, you know, I've said this in the past. So we get this dispatch to pick up, and I won't say the shipper, but it's a processing plant in Bryan, Texas. And you know, I don't have any problem doing this job, but I really don't like to be jerked around. But what I like probably even less than being jerked around is when my trainee, who is kind of got the con at that point, is getting jerked around. So my trainee was drove us from Houston up to Bryan. My trainee was driving. We go into the facility, and the security guard says, "Oh, go park by the scale and call this number." So we went by the scale. Now the security lady didn't tell us to scale. She just said park there. Well, that's where they were bringing in all the live animals, because they do have to scale that stuff, right? The truck, animal trucks, or whatever you call them, animal transporters. They scale because that's how they pay, the producers, I guess you call them, feedlots or whatever it is, chicken farmers, whatever it is that they're harvesting. Well, so we kind of get like stuck in there, and then we have to like back up and get out after we call. And all they told us to do was come to this place that's basically the shipping office. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just say, go to the shipping office that's at like door 7? Like, they didn't say that. They said, go here. Well, of course, we had to like back up a little bit and then try to get out and get over to the shipping office when we could have just gone there directly. Or, you know, I don't even know what that whole stupid procedure was. So then my trainee goes inside and the shipping office lady is like, oh, well, you parked in the wrong place. You need to move over behind that other truck. There was no instructions given. So trainee comes out, gets behind the wheel, and says, we got to go back around. And I'm like, screw it, just let's park over here, right? Because I saw some empty spots and it's good backing practice, right? So I'm like, let's just park. And then I said, you can walk over there. So we park, but it takes a little while because it's training, right? And then my co-driver walks over to the office, and guess what they say when they get in there, what the people at the plant say? Well, you have to go scale. And I'm like, what the F is that? Why, you know, and I do know that some of these producers want you to scale. But we've already been at this place for like 40 minutes by now, I swear. And I'm like, what the hell do I need, you know, do we need to scale an empty trailer, an empty reefer trailer? Like, we're not, you know, I don't even get it, right? Because, you know, Prime sometimes if they estimated 40,000 pounds and then it's like 22,000 pounds, sometimes when you do the live loaded call, they'll be like, well, hold on, we got to check with sales, make sure that that's right. And then, because I've had to wait. I don't like it, but I've had to wait for that. But I'm like, who cares what the truck weighs empty, right? And, you know, and you tell us what you put in the truck, in the trailer. Just tell us what the weight is. Why do we need to scale in and out? So anyway, so I'm like, man, this is freaking stupid. So then we get back underway to go back and get on the scale. Well, guess what happens? After all of this freaking rigmarole and wasting our time, the guard shack, the shipping office again. Like, you know, when they were like, oh, you parked in the wrong place, they could have just said, but by the way, before you come back to park in the correct place, go weigh yourself. They told us to go park in another place. Then we went back and we're like, oh yeah, you got to go scale. Then come back a third time. But guess what happens? I get this urgent message from my fleet manager. He's like, hey, somebody couldn't take a load for whatever reason, and I don't know. But it's a FedEx load out of Fort Worth. Are you guys loaded yet? And I'm like, no, we're not loaded. We just got the same empty on our back that we started with. I said, yeah, we'll take that load. And you know what? It paid less, but it was a drop and hook on both ends, and it got us. And by the way, this is not something I care much about, but since it was an opportunity, I got that load delivered to FedEx here in Colorado before the payroll cutoff. So I got an extra load on this week's paycheck that I was not even counting on. Because when we took this meat load, I was like, okay, well, it doesn't deliver till Thursday, tomorrow morning. So yeah, we just booked it up to Fort Worth, got the FedEx load, and just drove overnight up here. So that worked out pretty good. So anyway, that's what's going on. You know, I am just enamored with the trucker convoy. I mean, these real Americans are, you know, they're fighting for all of us. They're fighting for all of us, and they're not afraid to mix it up. They're not afraid to mix it up with people. And they were taking some decisive action the other day in California, and they decided that they were going to go actually on the residential street where a California state legislator lives, because apparently she was supporting, you know, abortion rights, reproductive rights, women's rights, whatever you want to call them. And, you know, and apparently she's also thinks it's okay that the government says that its employees have to get vaccinated for apparently COVID. And what happened was very interesting. So first of all, the truckers' convoy goes into somebody's neighborhood. They go to their house and, you know, demand that this woman, legislator, come out. Well, you know, there's political discourse, and then there's, you know, personal attacks. And I, you know, I gotta say that no matter what your cause is, no matter how you feel about it, going in somebody's neighborhood and telling them to come out of their house to talk to you is really kind of over the line, and inconveniencing their neighborhood and blowing your horns and using megaphones. And you know, so it turns out that the people in this neighborhood actually like all their neighbors, and they all come out of their houses and basically shout the truckers down, and they call the police to come get all these truckers out of this residential neighborhood. Because, you know, it turns out, if you ever pay attention to signs like you're supposed to, a lot of residential neighborhoods have that truck with the red circle and the little red line through the truck. And that means you're not allowed to drive a commercial vehicle in that neighborhood unless you're delivering or picking up. So, like, if you're the UPS guy, you can drive a truck in there. But if you're just there to, like, call somebody out because they, I don't know, they did something you didn't like in the legislature, you know, there's better ways to do it. But it gets better because these brave trucker warriors then get rousted out of this neighborhood by the neighbors and the local police. And while they're trying to go back to Sacramento, which I guess is their headquarters on the West Coast, people just turn out in the streets and start freaking pelting them with eggs. And a bunch of kids were doing it, but like a lot of people apparently joined in. And by the way, this is in the news media all over the place. A lot of people apparently joined in on this festivity and pelted the truckers' convoy with eggs. And apparently the truckers were like, "We're fighting for your rights," unless of course it's like reproductive rights and that they don't like, and then they're not going to fight for those rights. And you know, I'm enjoying this, I got to admit, but I do want to say something. When you, as an American, if you're not willing to fight for everybody's rights, then you're not really fighting for anybody's rights. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to religious freedom or any other issue, when you let or encourage the government to restrict individual rights, what you're doing is setting it up so that another government can restrict your rights. So it doesn't matter the issue. I don't care if it's vaccines, abortion, gun rights, right to a speedy trial, whatever. When you encourage the government to infringe on rights, you're encouraging the government to infringe on your rights. So remember that. Just because somebody has a right that you don't like doesn't mean that your rights aren't going to be threatened by your actions to suppress their rights. So that's my little civics lesson for today. So in other news, though, a couple of things. There's a bill that's been introduced in Congress to pay truckers overtime. I'm still kind of dubious about the federal government's efforts. I don't really like this, actually, and I'll tell you why. Even though I'm like pro-worker and pro-union. You know, I don't like the government really. Either the government's got to regulate trucking the way they have a lot of oversight over railroads, or they just kind of got to let the market do its thing. And the market, but here's the irony of this: the market is doing its thing. Like all these trucking companies that say they don't have enough employees, that's the market. That's the market. That's the free market. That's people's, and it's not that people don't want to work; they just don't want crap jobs. Go figure. And so, I'm an advocate of the free market, but again, irony always is that people love the free market until the free market doesn't love them. And you know, it's like anything else, right? Like employers shouldn't be forced. Now, by the way, the overtime is a law under the FLSA, but so that law has been around since the 30s. And lots of laws have unintended consequences. Maybe they should just get rid of all of that and let the market work. I don't have any problem with that. Or, you know, regulate more carefully, like they do with railroads. But we're just way behind the times. I'm not encouraged that we're going to get any kind of legislation because, you know, I'm sure that I was thinking about crap legislation the other day and how much time is wasted on it. And how, you know, and I don't care what political persuasion you are. You're a taxpayer. There's millions and millions and millions of dollars wasted on stuff that just doesn't matter, but and is never going to have any impact, you know. But I think that the overtime payment would be good. I think a better thing though would be some kind of regulation on shippers and receivers. Because most of us that work overtime, it's because of shippers and receivers. It's not because of our driving, because we're being compensated to drive. We're being paid by the mile or by the trip or whatever. It's all that time sitting around, you know, not getting paid to, you know, to just wait for somebody because they're not willing to hire enough staff. So we'll see what happens. I guess that's about all the cool news. I do think that diesel prices, they've been fluctuating, but you know, a lot of analysts are calling for a recession. If you're worried about a recession, then do something about it now. Don't just sit around and worry about it. If you're an owner-operator, if you're a lease operator, you know, put some food away in you know, the storehouse. You know, keep your powder dry. This isn't the time to be taking an expensive vacation just because mask mandates have been, you know, what do I want to say? Relaxed. You know, if you really think there's a recession coming, prepare for it. I personally think that Prime, of all the companies I can think of, Prime is as well positioned as any to weather that kind of storm and keep its drivers going down the road. You know, the stuff we haul now, and by the way, I'm not really talking about flatbed, and I'm not really talking about tanker because I know we do a lot of food grade stuff with tanker, but I don't know exactly what it is, but I do know that refrigerated, almost all the stuff that I've ever carried is stuff that's going to be in demand during a recession. People might not go on vacation, they might not buy a new car, but they're still going to buy cheese. They're still going to buy ice cream. I had a friend years ago who had a small distributorship. Like he was an independent contractor. He had a potato chip truck basically, and he had a snack food route in Massachusetts. And he said people buy snack foods if the economy's good. They buy it if the economy's bad. And that all happened way before the Patriots were any good. Like I remember back when the Patriots, like, they would advertise on TV for like $6 tickets. Again, before Tom Brady and I think before Belichick was there. This is what I'm talking about. So it's been a long time, but yeah, I mean, I was telling my co-driver, I said, food, perishable items, right? Fruits, vegetables, meat. That's what we haul. We haul a lot of products. We haul a lot of animal products that go to pet food manufacturers. People aren't going to let their dogs starve just because there's a recession. And, we haul candy. Who doesn't love candy? So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we haul that, I think is kind of sort of recession proof. So, keeping my fingers crossed. I am coming up on my 1 year anniversary. I think it's in a couple of weeks. So, keep your eyes peeled for that show. I'm going to give you the numbers, tell you exactly what I made per mile and gross to the truck, and then I'll also get the net number for the year, and we can average things out. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Good talking to you, and yeah, we'll catch you next time on Tim Travels. Bye.